Mitch, I walked outside this morning and I was met with a little sting in the air, that crisp autumn breeze. Ooh, it feels good because I know that playoff time is right around the corner.
You just smell it, can't you? So the weather's starting to turn. We only got 2 weeks left. Boy, those, Friday nights are going to turn into Saturday afternoons. It's just going to be wonderful.
Oh, the most wonderful time of the year.
One would say.
Let's go.
Talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome into View from the West podcast, the podcast covering Illinois high school football on the western side of the state of Illinois. I'm your host, Greg Armstrong, joined by the X-Man himself, the master of the graphics, Mitch Stormer. Mitch, how you doing here?
Greg, let's stop the grandstanding right now, okay? I've got a question for you.
Oh boy, here we go. We're jumping right in.
Yeah, I didn't put this in the notes because I wanted to catch you off guard with this one. But I think the listeners, they would want to hear this from us. They would like to hear our perspective on this. So I'm going to present it to you, okay?
Let's go.
Are the Chicago Bears good?
Oh, that is a weighted question. Because I did see a stat today that the teams they've played don't have the best overall records.
They're not good. The teams they've played are not good.
So there's that. But man, you still gotta like what you see. I mean, Caleb Williams is spreading the ball out. He's making things happen. The defense is getting the job done. It's exciting football. I'm excited. I'm intrigued.
I was not a fan of Caleb Williams. Didn't think his game would translate all that well, but he's proven me wrong there. But they're doing things against the bad teams that good teams should do, but that doesn't also always translate directly. But hey, they played the Texans tough. Probably shouldn't have lost to the Colts, but yeah, 3 straight wins for the Bears. Big one next week with the Commanders coming into town. Or I don't know where that is, but
I think it's a bye. I think the Bears have a bye week, then the Commanders. But either way, that's the next game. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that'll be fun. Jaden Daniels against Caleb Williams. But hey, that NFC North, woo, a lot of good teams in there. So at least good records. At least good records, we'll say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good records at this point. They look to be in the best conference in football, at least, according to, if you look at the early season, results. So I don't know. I'm excited. I loved watching the game. There's not many Bears games where I can say that was an enjoyable watch. That was a comfortable win. And today it pretty much was for the Bears over Jacksonville. So
that's the analysis our fans come for, not only for our NFL coverage, but then the answer to that question is we don't know.
Yeah.
That's the hard-hitting analysis we bring to the table for NFL football.
Yeah. All right, well, Mitch, we're here to talk about high school football, of course.
Oh, okay.
And I bragged you up. I hyped you up as the X-Man, the master of the graphics. Yeah. Mitch, people are loving the ticket punched graphic, the conference champion graphic, and I got to give you all the credit. That is amazing work.
I teased it, I think, last week. I'm still brainstorming what I want to do for Selection Saturday. Obviously we're going to have, what are we up to already with just the automatic teams? 5, 8, 10, 11 automatic teams at the moment for 11-man. So yeah, I'll have something worked up, but it's fun. I'm happy with how those ticket punch graphics showed up. And obviously with the amount of talented teams that we have, I got some job security in the graphics department. So yeah, it's going well.
We love it. The fans love it. Well, let's get into everything that was in week 7, and we turn the page into week 8, start looking at some intriguing matchups here coming up. Of course, before we get into it, Mitch, you know who we got to thank. We got to talk about our friends at Breedloves. Give it to them.
That's right. Tonight's episode is brought to you by our friends at Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online stores, Greg, which we'll get into in a moment. They provide all the same sporting goods services as the big nationwide companies, but with a faster turnaround, and their uniform pricing is a fraction of the cost you're probably used to. They offer brand names such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. Check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com, or shoot Cal Breedlove an email at calbreedlove@gmail.com for more information.
Mitch, you mentioned the online store. I want to stop right now and thank everyone who took time to go out, check out our shop, buy some of the merch. That the online shop just closed on Sunday night. The orders are being processed. They're going to be shipped your way. So you'll have those right in time for the playoffs. I'm thrilled. I'm excited. I'm just very grateful to everyone who, took the time to support us and go out and find a shirt they want to wear and, show the love for View from the West. It's really exciting stuff. So thanks to everyone who took the time. And Mitch, I would say this is not the end of the road for our online store. I think plenty of opportunities down the road. This will be something we come back to again. We opened it up twice during this season, but I think it's, it's just beginning. The project is just getting underway here.
Yeah, been a fun partnership with Breedlove's obviously for the last couple of years, and we took that kind of next step forward with them. So, obviously grateful to have their partnership and their activation with this gear. So we can't thank them enough. And as you mentioned, thanking the fans enough for supporting local football, supporting local business, and supporting this podcast.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and speaking with Breedloves, we're also brainstorming, teasing ahead a little bit. Mitch, our end of the year awards episode. Of course, that's how we cap off every season with our players of the year, our team of the year, all of the superlatives. We'll get, into that certainly down the road, but we're brainstorming with Breedloves right now about some ideas for some, some awards or some hardware to hand out to the award winners.
Ooh,
so,
all right.
Stay tuned on that. A lot of exciting stuff here for, what might be coming your way if you win one of those awards. So a little incentive maybe to, go out there and put up the big numbers, get the big wins, and we'll be talking about it for sure. So, Of course, you can follow along. If you're listening to this, go out. You can follow us on X if you're not already. You can also find us on YouTube and on Instagram. Mitch, we got highlights out there, of course, season highlights. We got podcast video clips out there on our YouTube channel. And did you see we got the Rambling Bull clip on our X account? That'll be up on our YouTube channel as well. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, I love it when a plan like that goes together where not only are you there shooting the coverage, but one, you get a great play, and two, there's that supporting audio from our guy Ty. So, yep, great job there putting all that together as always, and that's a fun watch for our friend Nick Bull, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He was very grateful, very excited. So yeah, you can find that right now on YouTube. And as you mentioned, the audio highlights, courtesy of WRMJ and Ty Taylor. I'll be syncing those up with my video highlights that I got. If they're not already out there already when you're listening to this, they'll be up very soon. We're going to have those highlights out on our YouTube channel this week, and we'll make sure to post that on X, post that on Instagram. So I encourage any Rock Ridge fans to go out. Those highlights will be up there. It was a great game, a great win for Rock Ridge, and just a really exciting atmosphere. We'll talk more about the game down the road in a minute here, but I really wanted to plug that. We'll have those video highlights with Ty Taylor's audio attached to it. It really is exciting stuff when you see it all put together. So I'm excited for everybody to go out and check that out. Of course, that also, Ty Taylor joined us on the Instant Reacts podcast for week number 7. We recorded that Friday night right after we got back from covering the game with Mercer County and Rock Ridge. Always great to have Ty's insight on what he saw at the game. Of course, we had the cast of characters, Brian Stocking and Matt Randazzo and Corey Kuffler from WQAD make an appearance there. So go out, check out the Instant Reacts. It's a little bit of the stats and a little bit of the stories, but it's a lot of our reaction and kind of what it means in the moment and what it means down the road. And hey, it's always a fun time on a Friday night.
Yeah, and stay tuned, or listen through it all the way to see Dazzo give the old Rock Island goodbye, where he just leaves out of nowhere and no one knew that he left.
He did, yeah. He did kind of ghost us all and just kind of like all of a sudden he was gone. So,
yep,
that's all right.
It's his world. We're just here.
All right. Well, Mitch, let's look at the playoff snapshot here. As we said, you've been counting all the tickets punched. You've been giving the people their graphics when they're in. Give us a rundown of what teams are locked in, secured. They're going to the postseason here.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we added 5 11-man teams. I could have that wrong. But as it sits, we have 11 11-man teams sitting at that 6 wins and the automatic ticket punched, as you mentioned. That would be Quincy from the Western Big Six. We've got Lena Winslow and Dupek from the NUIC. Representing the track will be Monmouth Roseville, Newman, and Princeton. And then in kind of combining both divisions of the LLC, we've got Princeville, Stark County, Farmington, Rushville Industry, and Elmwood Brimfield. So those are for your 11 for 11-man. We've also got 5 in the 8-man ranks, which are Polo, West Central, Milledgeville, West Carroll, and Amboy.
All right, so those teams are in. They're automatic qualifiers. Let's look at teams that have now reached the 5th win, which, that's all when it's all said and done. That's kind of the all-important benchmark.
Yeah, it's certainly the qualifying benchmark, right? Yep. And it's more than likely you're going to get in, 99% of the time. So for 11-man, that's sitting with Galena, EPC, Macomb, Moline, and Rock Ridge.
All right, so there we go. Let's get in. Should we jump into the Western Big Six, Mitch? Look at the week that was, week 7, and then look ahead at week 8?
Yeah.
All right, well, here we go. We had Quincy getting the big win over Sterling. These are the top 2 teams coming into the matchup in the Western Big Six. It was Quincy getting the win 63-6. Quincy grabs a share of the Western Big Six crown. They race to 454 first half yards and a 50-point cushion in the second quarter to put this one away early. Jarius Rice, 5 touchdowns, 4 rushing, 1 receiving in the first half. Mitch, you saw this. You said, was it his receiving touchdown that you said was remarkable, a great play?
The screen pass that he was all but locked up in the backfield right after he caught it. And sure enough, we've seen it a lot of times with a tough runner that Jarius gets out of the tackle and then just flies. I don't remember I think it was officially an 80-yard touchdown, but he was a little bit behind the line. So either way, it doesn't matter. He just flew right through the rest of the Golden Warrior defense. It was an amazing play. One of many that this Quincy team seems to put up every single week.
Yeah, he had 253 yards on 12 touches. Braden Little has yet to be in a game where he threw under 320 yards in a game this season. So in week 7, he had 359 in 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. He's throwing to Tykel Hammers, 123 yards receiving. This is the 6th straight 100-yard receiving game. So impressive for him. Quincy has now won 19 straight regular season games, including 14 straight in the Western Big Six. So they've really kind of jumped up. I mean, it's no secret at this point, but they've become the team. We talked about Moline and we talked about Sterling a lot over the last, 5, 6, 7 years. Quincy has really grabbed a hold of the top of the Big Six here.
Yeah, and certainly they've had just the senior class, which they honored at this game prior for senior night. Certainly going to go down in the history books for Quincy. This is we talked a little bit about their kind of documentary movie they've got coming out about last year's team, which was the best in school history, and they're just writing another chapter to that. This team is so much fun to watch. And hey, they got some of the underclassmen, the backups in the second half of this game. So, the future is already starting for Quincy when you put up, 56 points in the first half. So I didn't expect it. I did think that Sterling would come to play. Nothing real glaring that I saw that they weren't doing well. It's just Quincy is just so quick on defense. If you try and lock in on one guy on offense, there's 6 others that are gonna beat you. So, we're talking about maybe by the time that this podcast comes out, the top team in 7A.
Yeah,
and I think they're worth every bit of that. They are a very, very fun group to watch.
So it was Downers Grove North that lost, that had been number 1 in 7A.
Yeah. So again, that's the caveat. There is that Downers Grove North lost, but they lost to I think an unbeaten and 6th ranked in 8A.
Yeah.
So they definitely
right.
lost to a quality opponent. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to drop from that number one spot because that's a quality loss, so to speak. But if it comes out that Quincy is still number two, or if they're number one, it's they're well deserved.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, when you start looking through, the numbers are impressive every week. But now, Mitch, we're looking at some the history books continue to be rewritten here. And it seems like we're going to get, they just keep compiling the stats per Dom Krim, Muddy River Sports, another milestone night for Braden Little. He now has 9,060 career passing yards. That puts him third all time in Illinois high school history. So really impressive stuff here.
And looking at where he sits on the career touchdown passes, he had gotten into fourth a couple weeks ago. I think he is still there at a solid 4. If my numbers are really signing my numbers, I'm trying to go off of memory here. I think he's up to 107. Still got a handful to get to that third spot. So I still believe he sits, solidly number 4 in all-time touchdown passes. But boy, he's going to be top 5 in a lot of passing categories and going to go down as one of the best quarterbacks to come through the state of Illinois. And it's a fun thing for us to cover. And just to continue see, I watch a lot of Quincy games. I just happen to because, and again, they're not only, for my money, the best team that we cover, they're just fun to watch. And so to watch a quarterback like Little for the past couple of seasons put up these numbers and get these wins, it's exciting.
Yeah. It's great that we, get to see them, up close. We talk about him every week. And I'm excited as we move later into the season that, for the second year in a row, I'm excited for them to really show the state of Illinois what they can do. And I hope it's a deep run. And I hope that, a lot of times the Western Big Six, when it starts getting into the, the teams in, you're talking, Chicago's suburban area, they usually dominate that 7, 8A sort of area in the state of Illinois. I'm hoping that Quincy can make that mark, and really get people talking about Western Big Six and Quincy football. That's exciting to me as we get later in the year here.
Yeah. And look, we talk a lot about Little, but again, we can't say enough about what Jarius Rice brings to this team every single week, what Rico Clay does on both sides of the ball. You mentioned Tykel Hammers, 6 straight games of 100-yard receiving. I mean, when he gets the ball in the open field, he'll put his head down and he will put the hammer to the opponents. He's a physical receiver. Johansson had a big night. So yeah, it's just this whole team, everyone on the line, obviously is given little time to throw. They do a lot of bubble screens. And so that's your receivers are also becoming blockers in those scenarios. So this is a well-coached team by Coach Little. And looking forward to them continuing to what I believe will be a second consecutive conference crown, an undefeated crown, and then again making a run in that 7A playoffs once it comes out in a couple weeks.
Yep, a lot of exciting stuff there in Quincy. We'll certainly be talking a lot about the Blue Devils down the way in the next month or next handful of weeks. So, all right, let's keep going. Moline gets the win 28-14 over United Township. Maroons get their playoff qualifying 5th win, and it was Coach Morrissey's 50th win as a head coach. So congratulations to him. Congratulations to the Maroons getting the rivalry win here over the Panthers. Adrian Cooper led the effort with 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it's Moline coming away with the rivalry win here. They get a little revenge from last year when United Township knocked them off.
Yeah, and they led early. Maroons were up 21-0 at half. But UT wasn't going to go out quiet. We've been impressed with their quarterback, Christian Peterson, this year. Had a pair of touchdowns, one on the ground and one through the air. So they pulled it within a score. It was 21-14, but quarterback on the other side, Elijah Taylor, would put this one to bed. He found Zach Sierra for a touchdown in the 4th quarter that would seal the victory. And as you mentioned, I don't have any doubt that Moline's going to be in the playoffs, but this win, we talked about how important it would be for both teams. For Moline, I think Stocking made the point that Moline's in a good spot now to maybe get in and be in a position to host a playoff game. So that would be great. And Moline had that loss to Quincy earlier this year. and they've really rebounded and they continue to play really, really good football.
Yep, we'll talk about it in a minute here, but I certainly think there's a chance that Moline can run the table. They can finish at 7-2 and certainly put themselves in a position to get a home playoff game, which would be huge. So,
yep.
All right, 2 more games to cover here. Rock Island gets the win 13-6 over Galesburg. First win of the year for the Rocks. The play of the night, facing 4th down on their own 32. Javian Clark-Pugh lined up as if he was going to punt, but instead he finds Eric Hillier for an 18-yard catch, crucial first down. Clark-Pugh finishes 9 of 12 passing, 141 yards and a touchdown. Evan Ellis finishes with 117 yards on 7 catches. So it's been a rough go for the Rocks this season, but they come out in this one, get the win over Galesburg. So congratulations to the Rocks. They get one. It's not as many as they want, or it's not the season they wanted. But hey, you get a little positive momentum here with a victory.
Yeah, they've shown signs. The offense, even in a win here, just they haven't found that consistency. They've only been over 15 points in a game once, and that was against Dunlap in week 2. So, but you find ways to win, and this is certainly, hopefully, a good sign of momentum for Rock Island. For Galesburg, again, they're kind of in the same spot as Rock Island. They're just a tough year, but they battled, they fought, and a good game here. But in the end, it's the Rocks, and congrats to them on their first win of the year.
Yep. All right, one more game in the Western Big Six. Geneseo gets the non-conference win over Dalton Thornridge, 55-7. Mitch, give us the rundown on the Maple Leafs victory here.
Yeah, we kind of expected this one. We knew Thornridge wasn't going to be a big threat to Geneseo, but Colton Schmol-Burton had a trio of touchdowns in the second quarter, helped put this one away pretty early. Kyle Wenzero had an 83-yard pick six and had a rushing touchdown as well. So good win for Geneseo to get back into the win column after losing just that close game to Sterling the week prior. So they're sitting at 4 wins. Going to be a tough one against Quincy here in week 8. But they have a shot at getting that 5th win going on the road to Rock Island in week 9. But we'll get into that later.
Yep. All right. Well, let's look at week 8 matchups. As you mentioned, Quincy goes on the road to Geneseo. Moline is at Galesburg. Rock Island at Sterling. And United Township travels up to Wisconsin to Eau Claire Regis, who the last time we checked, they were undefeated. So, we'll start there. It's a tough road trip after a tough loss to Moline. United Township certainly backs against the wall right now, sitting at 3-4. They need to win these last 2 to get to that 5th win. This one seems like a tough one. It's a road game against a 7-0 team, but you never know. It's hard to judge kind of exactly what this Regis team out of a different state, what's their level of competition, who are they familiar with playing compared to what, United Township sees in the Western Big Six.
Yeah, the Ramblers, according to Max Preps, the 55th ranked team in Wisconsin. Appears that they just had a forfeit win, I guess. So they are 8-0. But for UT, more importantly, I do think that they will get a win in week 9. So this is essentially a must win, I think, for UT. You don't want to take your chances at being 4-5 and trying to get into the playoffs. They were 4-5 last year and didn't get in. So, it may look daunting, an 8-0 team. But in our experience with teams in our area, when we go out of state, we fare pretty well. So don't know too much about them. They could be very good. We just don't know. But what we do know is that UT has their backs against the wall at the moment, need to get a win here, and then need to get a win in week 9.
So I don't know if I can trust this 100%, but I'll go with it. It's good enough for me. A quick Google search says that Regis High School is around 400 students. So considerably smaller than United Township. Now, you never know. Size doesn't, enrollment size doesn't always mean better or worse football. We've seen that. It's played out in our area before. Smaller schools can go grab victories, but I think that's something to note that, maybe that's a slight advantage for United Township. Still a tough road test but we keep talking about it. A lot of talent here. This United Township team continues to improve. They couldn't get the job done against Moline. They still have 2 chances left here. And like I said a few weeks ago, when we were looking into our crystal ball, if they could grab 2 wins in a row, it's going to be very exciting times for United Township fans, for the city of East Moline. It's been a long time since they've been to the playoffs, and that would be a great thing.
And hey, even though they're kind of in that same ballpark, right, of that 4 or 5 wins as they were last year, I think this team is so much better than they were last year. You can see the improvements that Coach Welch has going on in this program, and they're building, putting on those building blocks, I think. And I think that if this year, if they get in it, if they don't, excited for what the outlook looks like for UT.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'll say it. I'll put it out there. I want to see United Township go on the road, get this win. Then they're coming back into the Big Six schedule with a game against Galesburg in Week 9. I want that storyline. I want to get to that place. So I'll say it. I'm pulling for the Panthers here to grab that non-conference win, and then we'll really have some exciting stuff to talk about. So, all right, a few more games here to cover. Next, in Week 8 of the Western Big Six schedule, Rock Island goes on the road to Sterling. So they look to continue some momentum, whereas Sterling looks to bounce back. I think that, going into this one, Sterling is certainly favored in this one, but, Sterling's got to show up and play, right? Because I think Rock Island, if they get that little taste of victory, can they build on that?
Yeah, and I mean, Sterling's sitting there at 4. Can they get their 5th win here? Because then you've got Moline coming in Week 9, which, again, the way Moline is playing, I would favor them in that game. So, yeah, this could very well be a must-win game for Sterling, I think. Looking at the schedule, I'll tell you what, I want to see how Geneseo looks against Quincy, and I'll explain why. I do not think Quincy will win this game. I think. All right, did I say Quincy? Oh my God, sorry. Don't edit that. You guys can hate me all you like. Slip of the tongue.
I will say Quincy will win this game. I will go on a limb and say I think Quincy will win that game, Mitch. I'll differ.
See, you're going to hold that over me. I believe Quincy will win this game, but I also believe that Geneseo will get into the playoffs, and I think they're going to meet some pretty stiff competition in the 4A playoffs. So, how will you fare against the best team that you'll play to date so far, as sort of a prep for what you might see? Because if they get into 4A at 5-4, they're going to play a pretty high seed, somebody's maybe similar to a Quincy-like team. So, yeah, could this be hopefully a sign of what they're going to be up against come playoff time?
Yep. I think the one more game to cover here, Moline at Galesburg. I think obviously, Galesburg's looking to play spoiler at home against Moline. But for Moline, we've already kind of talked about it. Huge opportunity here. If they can close out the season with 2 wins, there's a really good shot they're playing a home game in the playoffs, which is huge.
Yeah, I mean, they would have finished or started a 2-2 and won 5 straight. So,
yep.
And I think we talked about this too before, going back to the first 2 weeks where Moline played 2 really good teams in Rockwood Summit on Missouri, and then you had Bennett Academy. Bennett Academy sitting at 5-2, so they're going back to the playoffs as well. And how we thought that might benefit them in the long run. Now they, to say that they stayed within 20 of Quincy doesn't sound great, but it probably is. It shows some fight that other teams haven't against Quincy. So, and then after that game, now they've won 3 straight and have a chance to win 2 more. So, yeah, Quincy's on a roll. If they can get past Galesburg and have some momentum going into that Sterling game for Week 9, again, we could be talking about Moline hosting a playoff game.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's move into the Three Rivers Athletic Conference, the Mississippi side of things from Week 7. Monmouth-Roseville continues to roll. They get the win 35-14 over Spring Valley Hall. They overcome a slow start in this one, but they still grab the victory. And more importantly, the win secures the Three Rivers Athletic Conference Mississippi title. So that breaks a long streak that Princeton has had in winning that conference. It's the first outright conference title for Monmouth-Roseville since they've consolidated schools. So congratulations to the Titans. Their great season continues here.
Yep, been a fun ride for this team. Um, I'm trying to think back at the preview show. I did predict Princeton's going to repeat, but I do think we both said that Monmouth Roseville was going to be, right up there and be the challenger. And certainly they proved us wrong by really taking it to Princeton in that game a couple weeks ago, and they just continued to look great. So really looking forward to what Monmouth Roseville is going to look like come playoff time. But yeah, first and foremost, they secured that conference crown, so good for them. Peyton Thompson led the way, 191 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. Andrew Way added 76 yards and a touchdown. And Nick Houston continues to have a great year, 84 yards and 2 more scores. As you mentioned, it was kind of slow. Kind of one of those games that one of the few this week that the first half you kind of looked at these scores and you're like, oh, what's going on? They were close, or teams that we weren't expecting to either be competing or even leading at any point in the game were doing just that. But Titans led only 7-0 at halftime, so whatever adjustments they made, boy, it worked. So yeah, good for the Titans in this game.
Yep. All right, moving along, Kewanee gets the win 48-6 over Sherrard. Mitch, I was able to go to this one, get my eyes on Kewanee for the first time this season. Man, they wasted no time. They marched right downfield on their opening drive. Ben Taylor led the way at quarterback. He handed the ball off a couple different times to Ace LaFollette, a freshman running back. Mitch, he looked impressive. He's somebody to watch out for sure. And then when you get down near the goal line, you're going to the big bruiser, the workhorse in Alex Duarte. I don't know if you saw that highlight, Mitch, but man, Duarte he's a tough kid to bring down. Not many find success in doing that. And when you got a goal line runner like that, it's tough to stop.
Yeah, we'll get into this in a minute, but he's going to be a pretty key piece, I think, to try and break that Newman defense. But boy, Ace LaFollette, that's a track all name team if I've ever heard one. And if he's only a freshman getting some playing time and getting some touches, looking forward to saying that name as the years go by. But, Kewanee, a great win for them here. We've talked about what they've got ahead of them. Looking at their schedule now, they've won 3 in a row as well. They started 1-3, and now they've gotten 3 in a row. So I don't want to say the Newman game that we'll talk about in a second is must win for Kewanee. I do think they'll get that 5th win in week 9, but I think they can challenge Newman in this game with those names that we just mentioned, and they've put up 40 points in each of their last 3 games, and their defense looks really, really good after losing to Princeton in week 4. So yeah, Quincy. I'm full of it tonight. Kewanee has certainly figured something out after week 4.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it in a minute, but as we referenced on the Instant Reacts pod, I talked to some of the coaches out, Kewanee coaches, and we caught a little flack for what the crystal ball was telling us. We'll talk about it in a minute for their matchup there. You kind of referenced it, their matchup with Newman. We'll get into it in a second.
Here's my only thing to rebuttal to that is looking at these 3 weeks where they have, crushed the competition, 42-17, 49-14, and 48-6. There's 3 opponent wins of those 3 weeks. So you did what you're supposed to do, right? You have the momentum going into the Newman game.
Yep.
Prove it to me, Kewanee folks. Let's see that fight against Newman on Friday night.
All right. One more game to talk about, then we'll get into what we see in week 8 here. Princeton gets the win, 57-14 over Mendota. So Princeton punches their ticket to the playoffs. Casey Etheridge, 171 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ace Christensen, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Noah Laporte had a pair of receiving touchdowns. So great to see him back in the mix, catching touchdown passes. I think he's going to be a key piece down the way if this Tiger team is going to have success like they have in the playoffs in the past few years.
See their gray jersey they're wearing?
I did. Was it gray with pink numbers?
I think they wear those in October. So
yep.
I couldn't tell that that's what they were wearing until I saw some pictures close up. But yeah, again, Princeton's back in the playoffs. I think that they are. There's no reason not to believe that they're going to be a player in 3A once again. Obviously, it all depends on where those teams shake out and what, north and south and this and that. But they're really playing well. You got Laporte back. You get their best receiving weapon. So yeah, following that loss to to Montroseville. Princeton is looking good, and they're headed back to the postseason.
All right, let's get into. We'll talk about the track rock division for week 7, and then we'll go through all the games in week 8 because they're all crossovers between divisions. So, in the rock division, results from week 7, Newman gets the win 35-7 over Riverdale. Newman only led this game 13-7 at the break. So another great effort from the Riverdale Rams, but it's Newman that overcomes the slow start. They get their first outright conference title since 2017. That kind of surprised me. I didn't realize it had been that long since Newman had won a conference title outright. Yeah. But congratulations to the Comets. They earned it. They deserve it for sure.
You know they're celebrating at Kelly's, Greg.
Yeah,
Coach
LeMay
right. And the boys.
And listening to the instant reacts while they're doing it, right? I hope.
Texting me at 1 a.m., whatever it was. Yeah, so the party doesn't slow down there. But, hey, great for Newman. As you mentioned, boys, 7 years since they've done that. So kudos to Coach LeMay. Rushed for 230 yards. That sounds like a Newman team. 87 from Briar Ivy. Greg, did you see the uniforms in this one?
I did. So I was doing a little bit of, research, and I saw the pictures, the photos with the Comets wearing the all blue, the Blue Machine look, which a lot of times they kind of save that for the postseason. But the blue helmet, obviously, with the blue tops and the blue pants.
We haven't seen. You remember last year they had that blue helmet that just said Comets on the side. We haven't seen that yet. So maybe Coach LeMay's got something going here for the final 2 weeks. But yeah, I like the all blue look. It looks nice. Yeah,
I want to say that. Now I'm blanking on his name. The previous head coach, I don't think he was all that crazy about it.
Kretzmer.
Yeah, Coach Kretzmer. I want to say I talked to him, and that the players always wanted it, but he had to hold them off on when they'd wear it. But Coach LeMay busted it out here, or I should say, allowing the players to bust it out. Maybe he doesn't care either way. I don't know, but it's a solid look, and you can't overdo it, right? It's gotta be in limited doses.
It still doesn't compare to the blue silver or blue gray silver, whatever you want to call it, and white socks, the classic Newman look. So hey, if you're going to change a traditional thing, don't do too much. This is a good look for Newman, and they played well doing it.
There you go. All right, another game here, the big rivalry game. It's back, Mitch. The county line clash, the battle between Rock Ridge and Mercer County, meeting back on the football field. The first time these two teams have played in the regular season since 2005. They also met, as we talked about last week, they met in 2013 in the second round of the IHSA playoffs. That was Mercer County getting the 26-20 win in double overtime. That was an all-time classic game at George Pratt Memorial Field. But fast forward to the here and now, these two teams are back on a football field. I was there. The atmosphere is great. It just feels right to have these nearby rivals back on a football field. It's Rock Ridge coming away with the 34-6 win. They looked good in this one. We'll talk more about it in a minute here. I don't know that they played their best football game in this one, but they come away with a convincing win.
Yeah, it's not like they, a lot of mental mistakes, a lot of penalties, just shooting themselves in the foot. But hey, they come away with a win. That's what you need to do here this late in the season. So he had 3 touchdowns from Colin Schweigen. No surprises from there. We talked about that highlight that you got and linked up to the audio, but I'll let you relive it for the listeners here.
So yeah, let's get in and talk about Rock Ridge's first touchdown of the night. Early in this game, 0-0 score. As I'm driving from Sherrard to Rock Ridge, listening to Ty Taylor on WRMJ, of course, I'm hearing that, there was a couple early miscues, turnovers for Rock Ridge. One when they were at the 1-yard line about to score and they fumbled. But then another miscue keeps the score at 0-0. So I get to the game. Mercer County's deep in their own territory. I shoot their third down play. They get in fourth down, punt formation, and it all happens. Tanner McKeague skies up in the air, gets the big block. I mean, when he jumped, watch the highlight, he got up in the air. He skied up for this block. The ball goes shooting away, scooped up by Landon Bull, scoop and score. I couldn't believe I was seeing it. And the funniest part is, as I'm shooting it, I hear, obviously people are going crazy, but right behind me, I hear Landon Bull's sister, Shelby. She's one of the stat keepers for Rockridge. She's going crazy right behind me. So it was just a really cool moment. I know I've talked about it a lot, but Nick Bull and I have been really good friends for a long time. Mitch, you worked with him when you were an intern at Channel 6 when we were shooting high school football. And so a big reason why I love high school football in this area is because of Nick Bull. And I remember when Landon Bull was born. And so obviously we talked all about, when Landon started playing football, when he got into junior high and got into all this stuff, and talking about when he'd be playing high school football on Friday nights. And so to be there for that moment was really cool. One of those kind of full circle moments when, from meeting Nick way back when, shooting high school football, being out on Friday nights together, shooting high school football, to now. And, talking to him at the game and then getting texts from him afterwards. Just really cool. Just a really cool moment. So glad I was there. And if I had been 10 minutes later, I'd have never heard the end of it. So
did you pan the camera back to the Bull family to see the celebration?
Well, so I saw, like I said, Shelby was standing right behind me.
Right.
So I got a shot of her. Later in the game, I got a shot of Trish, of Landon's mom. She was sitting up in the crowd with, I believe, her parents. And then Nick usually stands down the sideline, down in the one end zone. So I walked down there and talked to him right after it happened as well. And like I said, I told him I'm glad I was here when I was, because I'd have never heard the end of it if I was still on the road from Sherrard, not here in person. So
great memory for all involved. Glad you were there and got it on camera. So very cool.
Yeah, just an awesome moment. And I tell you what, that really kind of opened the floodgates here for Rockridge. It was a 0-0 game at that point in the second quarter. They get that score. They go up 6-0. The next drive, Thomas Sowards punches it in after a drive for Rockridge. It's 13-0. Golden Eagles turnover. Rockets get the ball back. They score again. Cullen Schweigen in for a touchdown. So it's 20-0 at the half. But it happened in seemingly the blink of an eye. It was like all of a sudden it just boom, 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 touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And really, I think without those early miscues by Rockridge, I think this game could have been a running clock at some point. You heard it from head coach Sam Graves. Maybe Rockridge didn't play their best overall game, but you still win 34-6 pretty convincingly. I think you take the win, you carry that trophy off the field, you carry that momentum. I think at the end of the day, look at the big picture and you get the job done 34-6. You get the win, get back to work this week in practice. The season, like we've talked about with a lot of teams, Mitch, there's a learning curve, right? You continue to get better as long as you
got a sophomore quarterback.
Yeah, well, yeah.
In a rivalry game where emotions are high and you win by 4 scores, like what, that's a sign of a good team that you're upset about that. But hey, it doesn't take away anything from how good this team is. And if they are playing the best that they certainly have the capability of doing so against Monmouth Roseville, that's going to be a really great game. They're going to have to beat that team. But again, regardless of what happens there, I know that they're going to be a very, very good team in the 2A playoffs.
One more game to cover here. Erie Prophetstown gets the win, 32-28 over Orion. Orion got it. Orion was trailing in this one throughout. They fight back. They got it to a 4th and goal on the last play of the game, but the pass was incomplete. The Panthers come away with the win. Great job by the Panthers. They move on to, what's their record now, Mitch? I was going to look it up. They're 4-3.
Yep.
So they get their 4th win. For Orion on the other side of things, another game where, man, they fight back. They just don't have enough. This one, they literally come one play short. It was a heartbreaking loss to Erie Prophetstown a year ago. It's a heartbreaking loss in this one. Just, I'm sure this one stings for Orion because they were that close, but credit to Erie Prophetstown. They get their 4th win of the year, and I think that they have a shot. They have a good shot at making the playoffs here.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they will get in at 5-4. I'm guessing that's what we crystal balled as well. So yeah, like you mentioned, Orion, it's the second time in 3 weeks that they've kind of had to come back. They had that game against Riverdale a couple weeks ago where they got it close in the end. So it's an uphill battle for this team with numbers, but they continue to fight, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. So in this one, it's Erie Provincetown getting the win. And then again, I like their prospects of getting into the playoffs this year again.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into week 8 of the high school football season in the Three Rivers. Like we talked about, a couple big games here. Right off the top, we'll start with Rock Ridge at Monmouth Roseville. You have Newman at Kewanee, Erie Prophetstown at Mendota, Mercer County at Princeton, Orion at Sherrard, Riverdale at Hall. So let's start with right off the top there, Rock Ridge at Monmouth Roseville. Monmouth Roseville's rolling along. They kind of stumbled out of the gates against Hall. And we just talked a lot about, I hate to keep harping on it, we talked about maybe Rock Ridge in a huge win. They didn't play their best football, but here we go. Another, what I would call another rivalry game between Rock Ridge and Monmouth Roseville. I think both teams are going to show up to play in this one. I think this is going to be a great football game.
Yeah, I think so too. It come down to if Rock Ridge's defense can stop this really, really impressive rushing attack from Monmouth Roseville. But also, this is a Monmouth Roseville team that hasn't allowed more than 14 points the last 4 weeks. So Colin Schweigen and all of his weapons that he's got, Landon Wheatley and Trevor Dye and all the running backs that the Rockets have, can they get something going against a really, really good Titans defense? I think that'll be key. I was slowing them down and obviously using all of your weapons to get some points on them to keep it close and see if they can pull out a win. So exciting matchup. Exciting to see both these teams playing really well this year. And, for Monmouth Roseville, finishing the season, you win the conference title, and then you finish the year with Rock Ridge and Newman. So won't be an easy slate of games for the Titans, but they haven't, shown any signs this year that they can't handle something like that. So Coach Adolphson and the Titans, they'll be ready to roll.
Yeah, I think that, the end of the season here for Monmouth Roseville, I think it's going to be a great tune-up for the playoffs, right? I mean,
yeah.
You're really going to be battle tested in these last couple games against some top caliber opponents. And that I hope that, pays off for them come playoff time. And we'll see how it plays out if they can run the table. I think they have a very good shot at it, but they're going to be tested in these last couple weeks. Yeah. Let's talk about Newman at Kewanee. Now, Mitch, like we said, we caught a little bit of flack for, maybe predicting Newman a couple weeks ago. I don't want to act like I'm backtracking just because I talked to him, but I will.
Peer pressure's getting to you, Greg.
Yeah, but I will say
they bullied you. What did they do to you in Kewanee? Jeez, please.
No, okay, but I'll put this out there. Look at the job Kewanee did coming up just short against Monmouth Roseville. We've talked about how big and how strong Monmouth Roseville is, and Kewanee hung around with them and almost came away with that win. That game came down to the wire. So we haven't seen Newman and Monmouth Roseville play yet. That's in week 9. But if Kewanee can hang around with Monmouth Roseville, I think they can hang around in this game, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think too, how Newman plays against Kewanee will be indicative of how they're going to play against Monmouth Roseville. We just talked about Monmouth Roseville having to play Rock Ridge, and then Newman's got to play Kewanee and Monmouth Roseville. So, two teams that are your conference champions with 2 really, really hard weeks to close out the regular season. So, but yeah, Newman's going to have to play. It sounds like it doesn't need to be said because they usually do. Newman's going to have to play really good defense in this one. Yeah, I could see this game being like a 13-7 type of game. Something that is just who can control the clock the best, who can sustain the longest drives. Not sure that it'll come down to who has the ball last, but just, can Kewanee's weapons, can they make a difference against, guys like Daniel Kelly and that entire Newman defense? On paper, this game should be a lot of fun. And again, I think how Newman plays against Kewanee will be pretty similar to how they'll match up against Monmouth Roseville, because Monmouth Roseville and Kewanee had that great game in week 3. So yeah, this will be a fun one for Newman.
Yeah. Am I going to Kewanee this week, Mitch? This is
I mean, you might as well.
It's one that stands out to me for sure. I don't know. We'll have to look down the way what other teams are at home, what would pair up with it, but that's it. Yeah.
Is A&W home this week? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll look at it. We'll look down a minute here. The matchup I want to see is Duarte versus Daniel Kelly. Alex Duarte for Kewanee and Daniel Kelly for Newman. Both players, dynamic playmakers, and on both sides of the ball. Those two going up against each other, that's a marquee matchup. That's a matchup I want, a game within the game, is what I want to see out of that one. So I may have to find a way to get to Kewanee. That's a really interesting one. Obviously, Monmouth Roseville and Rock Ridge, huge game as well. I'd love to see that one. A few more games to cover here. Erie Prophetstown at Mendota, Mercer County at Princeton, Orion at Sherrard, Riverdale at Hall. Where do you want to start here out of those last four?
Let's see. I would say Orion and Sherrard. Look, two schools not having ideal seasons. Should be a fun matchup between these two. They've both shown signs of talent. They've both got playmakers, and so despite not having great win-loss records, they have an opportunity to get a win. Both schools have an opportunity to get a win here against the other. And hey, there's still a lot to play for, even if you're not playing for a postseason spot.
I think absolutely that game between Orion and Sherrard, it's a rivalry game. There should be a lot of people there. I hope there's a lot of people there to support these teams, because even though the wins haven't been there, this still means a lot to these student athletes, right? These players know each other. They live so close to each other. They co-op, I think, in soccer. So they play together in some instances, or at least they play against each other quite a bit over the years. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great rivalry game. Erie Prophetstown needs to get the job done against a winless Mendota team. But this time of year, man, nothing is a given. So Erie Prophetstown needs to get the job done if they want to, enhance their playoff chances there, get to that fifth win. Riverdale, same thing, right? They got to get the job done against Hall.
I was just thinking about that and looking at that this is a must win for Riverdale. They're sitting at 3-4. They will not get in if they lose this game to Hall. So
there you go. Yep.
The way Riverdale has been playing, I'm not too concerned about that. But Hall did play Monmouth Roseville really tough in the first half. So we'll see. But yeah, just that kind of had slipped my mind for a moment that Riverdale's sitting at 3-4. I do like them in week 9 over Sherrard, so that would make this game an absolute must-win for the Rams.
One more thing that we need to talk about, it's really interesting here. Mercer County goes on the road to Princeton. Obviously, Princeton is rolling along. They get the win last week. We're looking at Mercer County now. They're in a very unfamiliar situation here. They're sitting at 3-4. They have this game against Princeton next week in week 9 against Mendota. So they need to win 2 to get to that 5-win mark, and their backs are against the wall. Mercer County does not miss the playoffs very often. Going back to before Mercer County, when they were Aledo and Aledo Westmer, this program has not missed the playoffs since 1995. So, I mean, they need to win 2, and they're on the road this week against Princeton. Their backs are certainly against the wall. It's just, it's crazy. We haven't seen this program in this type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to those years of Aledo and Aledo Westmer. I mean, you're talking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A 9-year stretch, give or take.
Yeah.
Where they went to the state finals 5 times and won 3 of them.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
the history here, whether it's Mercer County or whether it's Aledo or whether it's Aledo Westmer, anytime you're talking about a streak that could be in jeopardy going back to 95, I mean, that's just a tremendous example of sustained success. And as you mentioned, it's unfamiliar territory for Mercer County.
Yeah. And so we'll see what they can do. It's a pretty tall task to go on the road and beat Princeton. And certainly things haven't worked out, for Mercer County this year. There's been some inconsistency. They haven't had the type of play that they need, to get the job done. They're sitting at 3-4. See what'll happen there, but just a really fascinating, really interesting to kind of see where we're at here in the season for this Mercer County program. But the 2 headline games, Rockridge at Monmouth Roseville, Newman at Kewanee, I think, Mitch, that's a leading candidate for me trying to find my way to one of those 2 games. That's I think where I may have to end up.
I would vote to go to Kewanee.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leaning, because I've seen Rockridge several times. I saw Monmouth Roseville and their big win over Princeton. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Well, that way you can pay your debts to whoever you owe money to and whoever shook you down the last time you were there. I don't want that to go any further than it needs to. Let's just settle this and move on.
No, very, very nice. I had a wonderful meeting with the coaches from Kewanee, but they,
Greg's winking. Yeah. Greg's winking as he says that. We're on to you, Kewanee.
This episode of View from the West podcast is brought to you by Simulation Sports. In addition to golf simulators and batting cages, Simulation Sports provides golf club repair, custom fittings for driver shafts, and even private lessons for golf, baseball, and softball. Whether you're looking for a fun group activity or want to fine-tune your skills and equipment, Simulation Sports has something for everyone. Visit their facility at 400 South Main Street in Monmouth, Illinois, or go to thesimulationsports.com to start playing today.
Shouldn't financial advice focus on you? I can help you plan for your financial future, from protection to saving to retirement. I'm Nate Neighbor, your Modern Woodmen representative. Call me at 309-233-2656 or find me on the Modern Woodmen website.
Get to know your local Modern Woodmen representative to plan for your financial future and learn about valuable member benefits. Modern Woodmen of America. Touching lives, securing futures. Securities offered through MWA Financial Services, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Modern Woodmen of America.
View from the West podcast is also sponsored by the Cupcake Cartel. Gourmet cupcakes that are made to order. Over 40 flavors, including wedding cake, lemon blueberry, strawberry milkshake, snickerdoodle, and Oreo. Perfect for weddings, birthdays, showers, fundraisers, or any event. You can find the Cupcake Cartel on Facebook. We thank them for their support. Let's jump into the Lincoln Land Conference, the LLC large division from week 7. Illini West, Mitch, they are on a roll. They get the win 34-7 over Bureau Valley. Give us some of the stats and the storyline from this one.
Yeah, sure. We talked a lot about this game, that it was kind of a must win for both teams and their prospects for getting into the playoffs. And, it's Illini West. Ethan Carlisle completed 6 of 13 passes for 112 yards and 4 scores. Also ran 13 times for 40 yards. Leading back for the Chargers was Nick Johnson, 18 carries, 176 yards, and a score. So, Greg, we had talked about this Illini West team that we thought, of all the teams we covered, had maybe, I don't want to say the easiest, but the path to getting to the playoffs was maybe the most clear, right? They're sitting at 4 straight wins after starting off 0-3. They've now matched their win total from last year, and I think that they are definitely going to get into the playoffs. I mentioned on the Instant Reacts, I don't know what to make of Tuscola yet, sitting at 4-3. So we could be talking an Illini West team here potentially starting 0-3 and getting into the playoffs at 6-3, and what a story that would be.
Yeah, they're playing really good football right now, and I think there's that opportunity for them to get the job done. For Bureau Valley, this is a tough one. This is a tough loss for them. We'll talk more about what they have coming down the way, but I think this one would have been a big win for them. This one would have been this one was important, and they come up a little bit short. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go through the rest of the games here on the LLC large side of things. You had Elmwood Brimfield getting the win 31-28 over Macomb. So the Trojans punched their ticket to the playoffs for the 21st time in school history. Mitch, give us some of the numbers. Bo Windish, man, he continues to get the job done.
Yeah, and just a quick shout out to Coach Hollis. This was a program that was 4-5 last year, so what a nice turnaround here for the Trojans. But yeah, they will punch you in the mouth. And Bo Windish goes for 255 yards and 4 touchdowns on 31 carries to lead Elmwood Brimfield. Lane Johnson added 104 yards in the TD on 16 carries. In all, Greg, Elmwood Brimfield rushed for 469 yards on 81 carries.
That sounds a lot like run, touchdown, repeat out there,
Sure does.
out there for Elmwood Brimfield. So congratulations to them. I know that, Coach Hollis was very excited about the ticket punch graphics, Mitch. He reached out to you about it and you told him, hey, you got one more to get and you'll get that graphic. And sure enough, they get the win here against Macomb. And man, I talked about it on the Instant Reacts. I should have been more gung-ho. I had a good feeling about Elmwood Brimfield going into this game, despite the head-to-head comparison against Farmington. When you looked at their head-to-head, Macomb fell just short against Farmington, whereas Elmwood Brimfield really struggled against Farmington. That head-to-head matchup indicated that Macomb would be the favorite in this one, but I don't know. I had a feeling. I should have went with it, Mitch. Always trust your gut. I didn't. I learned, though, to always...
Yeah, If I'm remembering correctly, in the crystal ball, I probably thought that Macomb was going to win this game because I think I said Elmwood Brimfield was going to get into the playoffs at 7-2. I have no doubt that they're going to be 8-1 going into those playoffs. And again, what a turnaround this has been for this squad. But this was a great game. Macomb's, a tough team. They've played two really good opponents in back-to-back weeks and come up short in both of those games. So we'll be talking about Macomb in the playoffs, but hopefully that these two battles will give them some momentum here moving into the last 2 weeks and heading into playoffs.
Yeah, Macomb, a really good football team. I think they got some wins left on their schedule here, and I think that they'll be a tough out in the playoffs as well. We'll talk about that in a minute here. But Mitch, the 31-28 final, a great game in the Lincoln Land Large Division. Good enough, I think, to be our game of the week.
Yeah, I think so too. A great battle here in the LLC, and that's going to go for the View from the West Game of the Week, which is sponsored by Nate Neighbor of Modern Woodmen of America. From protection to savings to retirement, contact Nate Neighbor today to put together your financial game plan. He's always just a call away at 309-233-2656. Modern Woodmen, touching lives, securing futures.
All right, well, we referenced Farmington there a minute ago. Let's talk about their battle against Anawan Wethersfield. What a battle it was. Farmington comes away with the 8-6 win. A defensive battle in this one for sure. Mitch, give us some of the storylines here. I think this score kind of caught us a little by surprise because Farmington has been putting up some huge numbers, but we knew that Anawan Wethersfield had a good defense, and they really, in a loss, they still really showed something to us here.
Yeah, that's the thing we talked about. I think I asked you, to guess who had the best defense, statistically in the small side. And with this matchup, Anawan Wethersfield has still not given up 100 points on the season. It's only sitting at 90. But yeah, Logan Hutt scored on a 3-yard touchdown run in the first quarter. And sure enough, that proved to be enough.
Yeah.
Great defensive battle for both of these teams. Farmers quarterback Lane Wheelwright got banged up a little bit, slowed down in the second quarter, but stayed in the game. Utt would be kind of that workhorse, maybe taking away some touches that Wheelwright normally would have had. He finishes with 73 yards rushing on 20 attempts. In talking in messages with Coach Vallis, he gave all the credit to Anawan Wethersfield, said that they did a terrific job and they did a lot of great things in this game.
Yeah. On the flip side, the Farmers hold this Anawan Wethersfield offense to 123 total yards on the night. So great defensive effort on both sides of the ball. Great job by the Farmers here. They've won some games with big point totals, but I think this win really shows that this Farmer squad can really grind out a win if they need to as well. And I think that could be that could be something positive when you get into the playoffs when, things don't always come as easy as they did in the regular season.
Yeah, well, and especially if Wheelwright was slowed down a little bit, they found a way to win without their biggest weapon, and that'll pay dividends for them moving forward. So, again, we predicted them to finish 9-0, getting past this one, which was their hardest of their 3 remaining games. I still believe that. So, yeah, kudos to this Farmington team, but Anawan Wethersfield, sitting at 4-3 now. I think they'll still get into the playoffs. And I think we saw the instant reacts. If they get in at 5-4, that's a pretty tough 5-4 team in 1A.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Totally believe that. And Mitch, what's getting exciting is, next week and certainly that week after, we're going to be we'll talk a lot more about the playoff projections. We've seen them. Kyle Kampmeyer from NUICfootball.com puts them out every week for the last few weeks. I think maybe next week we'll really dive into what the playoff picture looks like and kind of as it, now that it's really kind of taken shape.
Yeah, it's certainly starting to take shape. There's no doubt about that. There's, there's fewer and fewer spots becoming available as the weeks go by, and kind of as we see teams that get their fourth win and, looking like they're going to get a fifth win in week 8. When it comes to when we're talking about the preview of week 9, I'll be interested to see how much is really left to shake out by then.
Okay. Yep.
But we'll see. That's what makes this time of the year fun.
Yep. All right. Well, a couple more games here to cover in the Lincoln Land large side of things. So, Mitch, we go from a defensive battle to, I don't even know if I have the words to describe exactly what you would call this offensive performance. A shootout, I don't know, an offensive deluge. What's the word here?
Deluge. Goodness.
Yeah.
You've been hanging out with Stocking too much. A basketball game. I think I said it was an Arena League game when I found out what the score was. So
let's get into it. Knoxville.
We're talking history. I mean, we're talking a historic offensive night between Knoxville and West Hancock.
All right. Well, here we go. Knoxville gets the win 80-52 over West Hancock. This high scoring game comes with some history. One of the highest scoring games that we've ever talked about here on the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
And these numbers come with some history, some statewide records here, or darn near close to records. 702 rushing yards in this game for Knoxville. That's good for 5th best in Illinois history. Now that 702 was also their total yardage for the game. That's good for 20th all time. You had 11 rushing touchdowns, tied for the fourth most in Illinois high school history for a single game. And the 132 total points scored is tied for the 12th most in Illinois history for a single game. So, wow, a lot to unpack there.
That is insane, for one.
I forwarded you the email, and I wish I could have seen your reaction as you opened it and read it.
Well, you saw my response to you.
Emoji.
Yeah, you saw my response to you, which was just me laughing. Yeah, this is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Just to dive into the numbers a little bit more, a name that we've talked about for the last couple of years, Nolan McClay for Knoxville. Listen to this, Greg. 8 carries, 292 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So not only 5 touchdowns on 8 carries, that's 36.5 yards a clip. Just video game numbers. I don't even think I could do that on a video game.
Yeah.
Just insane.
Incredible performance by him, for sure.
Yeah, you had Bo Laws, who had 15 rushes for 216 yards, 3 touchdowns. You had Braden Walters, 108 yards and 2 touchdowns. Easton Harshbarger, 84 yards and a touchdown. So, man, I mean, it's crazy enough when you have 3 rushers for over 100 yards. It's even more crazy when you have 2 rushers over 200 yards. So this is, again, history in this game. Just a lot of offense, a lot of running the ball, and we don't see this very often. So pretty cool.
No, I was going to say we don't see this very often, and when we saw it, it was certainly, it made us stop in our tracks and it do a double take. Nolan McClay leading the way, like you said. Amazing effort from him. Mitch, this game, we can't go past this game without sending a helmet to Knoxville. Congratulations to Nolan McClay. His performance earns him the Breedlove's Player of the Week. We got a helmet going to Knoxville, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't see numbers like that. So Yeah, Nolan McClay, helmets headed your way. Great performance in this one. Look, hasn't been the year that Knoxville has wanted, not the results that we've come to expect from Knoxville the past 5 years that we've been doing this show. But hey, they still put up a fight. They still are true to their identity running the ball. So yeah, this is a great performance. Amongst a lot, we just talked about, Bo Windish having a great night for Elmwood Brimfield, but not so sure we're going to see something like this again for a long time. So Nolan McClay, our Breedlove's player of the week.
Absolutely. Well deserved there. All right.
Now let me quiz you. Let me quiz you.
Yes.
What is the IHSA record? Well, you don't tell me the record, but you might remember the game. What game holds, okay. This would be the team record. So it's only one team. It's not combined.
Okay.
What is the number one team rushing effort in IHSA history?
I believe it was it Joliet Catholic in a state title game?
Yep. Who was it against?
Oh, see now, Montini?
Yes.
No. Was it?
Got it.
Yes. Oh, wow. Okay.
2011. It was a state championship game. If any, and there's going to be some listeners of this show that, were pretty little in 2011. If you can find that game on YouTube, which I know that it is, Joliet Catholic ran for 747 yards in that game. And I don't remember what Lombard did that night too, but what was that guy's name? Ike something? Isaac something? What was his name?
Yeah, I can't remember now.
Ty Isaac.
Ty Isaac
was his
there
name.
You go.
Yeah, just if you have never seen that game, please go watch it. They had 853 yards of offense that night. Wait, no. Okay, hang on. This is the absurdity of this game. Joliet Catholic ran for that many yards in a game. Lombard Martini had 853 yards in that game themselves. 587 passing yards.
I was going to say, they had a huge game too. It was like, yes, that was what made that game so crazy.
I remember watching this game.
Yes.
And just the absurdity of it. Ty Isaac was the kid's name for Joliet Catholic. I think he went to USC. I think. Trying to find out what the score of that game was. I look it up. The first headline is "You'll never see a game like this again." And we could go through all of this later, but side tangent. Look up the 2011 state championship game between Lombard Martini and Joliet Catholic.
Was it Class 5A in 2011?
Yeah.
So there you go. The final score: Montini won 70-45. So yes,
it's if you search up 2011 Montini Joliet Catholic State, the first video preview the first kind of thumbnail is that game. I'll probably watch it now that we're talking about it because that was hilarious.
Man,
it's just fun to watch.
I did not realize it was that long ago, but I definitely remember that game. That game will always stand out to me. All right.
Oh, here we go. Hey, no, I'm going to give you this real quick. Ty Isaac had touchdown runs of 71, 63, 56, 66, 69, and 2.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and watch that game now, too.
On the Montini side, Jordan Westerkamp went to Nebraska. He had 331 yards receiving.
Jeez. Oh, this. That was a fun trip.
It's fun to reminisce about that because that's fun. So, hey, look, Knoxville, you put up records like that. It just takes us on a side tangent. But more importantly, Blue Bullets get the win. Nolan McClay gets a helmet.
Yep. All right. One more game here in the LVC. LVC falls to Macon Meridian 61-24. So let's look ahead at week 8 in the Lincoln Land large school side of things. Illini West goes on the road to West Hancock. Elmwood Brimfield goes on the road to A-Town. Farmington at LVC. Knoxville at Fulton. And Bureau Valley at Macomb. That non-conference game between Knoxville and Fulton kind of stands out to me. That's interesting, especially after this performance we just saw with Knoxville.
Yeah. And yeah, if you remember from last year, this was a Week 8 game last year. Knoxville was 7-0 coming into this game, and Fulton blitzed them. And I think that would have been the first of 3 straight losses for Knoxville to end that season. But I'm sure they've been thinking about it. They've got the rushing attack now maybe figured out. We've seen Fulton being maybe a little bit, suspect on defense. And so if they can kind of churn out with Laws and McClay and Walters, that they might have a shot here against the Fulton team that has struggled this year as well. So either way, it's a fun crossover game. And for a second straight year, it'll be fun to watch.
So as we talked about earlier, Illini West looking to keep their momentum rolling as they go on the road to West Hancock, see what they can do in that one. Bureau Valley, really needing a win here against Macomb. It's a tough road game. That's a tough road test, but see what they can do there.
They'll have to play like they did against Elmwood Brimfield. That game came down to the last play. Elmwood Brimfield came up with a stop against BV on like the 3-yard line, but BV showed fight. They're going to have to do that again against a Macomb team that has lost 2 in a row. Is that right? So, yep. Hey, again, backs against the wall for BV. Got to win this one. Man,
you look at Macomb, they're in a tough stretch here where they played Farmington and Elmwood Brimfield in back-to-back weeks, and they come up 6 points short against Farmington. They come up 3 points short against Elmwood Brimfield. So they've really,
Farmington was in overtime.
Yeah, exactly. So they've really had some battles the last few weeks. So they're certainly motivated to bounce back. And Bureau Valley with their backs against the wall, that's an interesting matchup there for sure. The other games here, Farmington at LVC, Elmwood Brimfield at A-Town, I think are kind of predictable. Obviously, you got to show up and get the job done. So, all right.
Yep, I think so too.
Yep, let's get into the Lincoln Land small school side of things from week number 7. The big matchup, the one that took the headlines in this side of the division, Princeville going up against an undefeated Stark County team. So undefeated Princeville going up against undefeated Stark County. Princes get the win 33-22. Great. We talked about it. It was going to be the battle of the playmakers. Which team's playmakers would show up in this one? It's the Princes. Jake Williams continues to impress. 13 of 20, 179 yards, 4 touchdowns. Noah Geiger had 115 yards rushing. And again, Mitch, these receivers for the Princes, they continue to get the job done too. There's some weapons for the Princes and for Jake Williams to throw to.
Yeah, it's Jet Benningfield mostly every week. 3 receptions, 3 touchdowns. We like that. 71 yards. Hunter Johnson had 3 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown as well. Hunter Johnson also had 2 interceptions that could have been what made the difference in this game. Obviously, taking Stark County out of their rhythm, that's what you need to do in order to kind of win games like this. So I don't know if I was critical of Princeville, but I did think that they have not played their best competition. I did think Stark County was going to win this game. I thought Stark County would finish 9-0. So I'm eating crow on this one, offering a mea culpa as Princeville gets the win. So yeah, they're looking better and better as we get closer to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that Princeville, they showed up. They proved it to a lot of people here. I think that they should definitely be a team to keep your eye on coming into the 1A playoffs. For Stark County, it was a big game, and maybe they could have played better football all the way around. They could have done some things. I think this is a learning moment. Sometimes this late in the year, you don't want a loss, but it could really be one of those moments to sit back and, kind of regroup and figure out what you need to do to make sure that doesn't happen again. So for the Rebels, still a lot to look forward to, still a very talented football team. See what they can do down the road here in the last 2 weeks and then moving into the playoffs.
And hey, Princeville still has 2 tough games to close out the season. So if you can, if something, if Princeville slips up in those 2 weeks and Stark County finishes 8-1, they would still grab the conference. So it's not over just yet. Princeville has not claimed a share yet. They would with a win this week, but Stark County's just got to regroup and keep going.
Yeah, Princeville has a really interesting matchup this coming week against Rushville Industry. Rushville Industry gets the win 42-34 over Roval Williams Field. So the Rockets punched their ticket to the state playoffs. They're now 6-1 They lost in week 1 to Stark County, and now here they go. They've rolled off 6 in a row. This is an impressive team.
Yeah, been really impressed with Rushville Industry this year. Obviously, when you look at what they, were last year at 3-6. Again, we've talked a lot about teams that have really, in this conference alone, that have made a really, really great turnaround this season. So been super impressed with the Rockets. Big night here for Rylan Reimolds, 115 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was on helmet watch, no question there. So good fight from ROWA Williamsfield. Again, another team that maybe not having the year that we've seen from them in years past, but a good fight in this one against the Rockets. But yeah, Rushville Industry sitting there at 6-1. They're going to be a good team come 1A.
You start looking down the way, outside of a couple games here, ROWA Williamsfield every week has been in tough, tight battles, right? In some wins and now in some losses. They've played some really close games. They come up a little bit short in this one. This Rushville Industry team, going back to last year and the year before, they had a really talented group of underclassmen coming into this season. The question was, would they take that next step? And they fall short in week 1 to Stark County, who's proven to be a very good team once again this year. But I think you're really seeing them kind of make a name for themselves in this Lincoln Land Conference. I'm excited to see what draw they get in the playoffs and what they can do, in the 1A playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Just kind of going back to ROWA Williamsfield for a second. They've got the 3rd most points scored in this division. So they've been putting up the points. They haven't been able to stop a lot of teams, unfortunately. So, if can that offense put up similar numbers against the best defense in the conference? I don't know. But they've certainly proven they can score points this year. They'll certainly have to. Sitting at 3-4, I do think this would be a must-win for the Cougars. I would favor them in week 9 against A-Town. So, this is kind of a must-win in my eyes for ROWA Williamsfield.
You're talking about their matchup against Anawan Wethersfield coming up here.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk about that in a minute. A-Town gets the win 36-34 over Havana. The Ducks scored with 12 seconds left, but they missed the extra point. A-Town then scores with no time left and gets the conversion. Mitch, we talked about it on the Instant Reacts pod, but man, the Ducks, there's bit again in the last seconds of a game in just unbelievable fashion.
Yeah, and this is on me when I say miss the extra point. I don't know if they kicked or if they went for 2. I don't know what they tried to do, but
okay,
it doesn't matter. In the end, it doesn't matter. But yeah, going way back, it looks more far-fetched now with what Princeville has continued to do.
Yeah.
But Havana should have beat Princeville.
I know.
They should have beat Princeville. And then in this one, again, what more can you do? You have the lead with 12 seconds, and A-Town gets the win. So kudos to the Tornadoes for playing to the final whistle, and they get this nice win.
Man, that had to be a crazy atmosphere in the last about, maybe 10 minutes in real time. But 12 seconds of game time? That's unbelievable finish to that one. So, all right, one more game. South Fulton got the win 34-7 over United. So let's look ahead to week 8 in the Lincoln Land small school side of things. South Fulton goes on the road to Stark County, looking to bounce back there. You have Havana at Monmouth United. ROWA Williamsfield going to Anawan Wethersfield in a big game there. Princeville at Rushville Industry, another big one there, and a crossover game, Elmwood Brimfield at A-Town. Mitch, 2 really intriguing matchups in this Lincoln Land small school side when you're talking ROWA Williamsfield going on the road to A&W and Princeville at Rushville Industry. Really big matchups.
Yeah. Obviously, Princeville and Rushville Industry are 2 playoff teams, so it could be a preview of a rematch in the playoffs. We've seen that happen before, certainly with teams in this conference. I'm more intrigued, I think, with ROWA Williamsfield playing against Anawan Wethersfield, just because we'll see what the Cougars can do in this sort of situation. Can they come up with the stops when they need to? Can that offense kind of put up the points that they have been really all season? So I think that's where my eyes would go to first. But again, I've been waiting for Princeville to prove something to me. Not that they have to, but I'm just intrigued. I'm more intrigued at what their outlook is in that, what I would assume they would be in the 1A North. And we know that the kind of talented teams that we're going to see there, where they stack up with the Lena Winslows, with the whomevers, right? So this is another chance for them to kind of prove and stake their claim as to one of the best teams that's going to be in that 1A North.
Well, I think we learned a lot about Anawan Wethersfield's defense last week against Farmington. I think we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams, ROWVA Williamsfield and Anawan Wethersfield, in this one, in this kind of, rivalry between these two, because they've been up near the top of the conference standings the last few years. Getting this late in the season when it means a lot to both of these schools, that should be a great atmosphere there. Actually, we just talked about it. Kewaunee at home and Wethersfield's and they're in Wethersfield. So, Mitch, maybe I'm going to Kewaunee on Friday night.
Hey, that's what I want. I want you to go. So it's you got options. There's no doubt you got options.
And this game against, like you said, Princeville and Rushville Industry, I think you're going to learn a lot about those two schools as well, right? To see kind of the team that could come away with a win in this one. I think it's going to prove to a lot of people that I think both teams, will be playoff teams, will be good playoff teams. But one of them, I think, could really set themselves apart a little bit in this one. So it's a tough stretch overall for Princeville when you look at Stark County, Rushville Industry, and Anawan Wethersfield to end their season. So the Princes will certainly be tested heading into the postseason for sure. And they've answered one of them.
The View from the West Player of the Week is brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. You can check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com, or shoot Cal Breedlove an email at calbreedlove@gmail.com.
This is Dan Pearson of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Our FCA team of staff, board, and volunteers is pleased to support View from the West with Greg and Mitch. Our Northwest Illinois FCA team is 3 teams in 1, serving coaches and athletes in the Three Rivers, Northern Illinois, and Greater Peoria areas, all with schools covered by View from the West. For more information, email me at danpearson@fca.org. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
The Quad City's first and only fantasy football show, For Fantasy's Sake, has you all covered when it comes to all of your fantasy football needs. The guys come to you live every Sunday morning during the football season from 10 to 11:30. They've got the best analysis, rankings, DFS, and gambling advice between the Rock and Mississippi Rivers. So tune in to For Fantasy's Sake every Sunday during the football season from 10 to 11:30 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube.
Hey, this is Brett Bielma, the head coach of the Fighting Illini from Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to the View from the West podcast.
Let's get into the Northwest Upstate Illini from Week 7. Lena Winslow gets the win 35-18 over Eastland Pearl City. So the Panthers get another win, but great effort here from the Wildcats. Adam Allender started the game by returning the opening kickoff for an Eastland Pearl City touchdown. They led 12-0 early in this one, but it's the Panthers that, that's their story. They do what they do. They led 22-18 at the half. They proceed to outscore the Wildcats 13-0 in the second half. So Lena Winslow continues to get the job done. They're having another great season as we head into the back end of the regular season, heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, EPC has kind of been the darling here for the NUIC this year, and was intrigued to see how they would match up with Lee Win. And early it looked like they had come ready to play, but again, it's hard to sustain that against a Lee Win team. And as you mentioned, they came back from being down 12-0 early, led at halftime, and then pulled away in the second half. So Aiden Wild, a couple of touchdowns for Lee Win. So again, you got Lee Win sitting at 7-0. They have not yet clinched a share just yet, but obviously they're in the driver's seat to do so. So yeah, great win here against a great team against EPC, and Lee Win continues to roll.
Yep, we'll talk about what they have coming up next week in a minute here. Let's talk about the rest of week 7. Galena gets the win 43-6 over Dakota. Miles Schumacher, 230 all-purpose yards, 4 touchdowns. Great effort from him. That's a helmet watch for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All of his touchdowns went for more than 50 yards. So great job by him, but he wasn't alone. Roman Romer, once again, had 1 completion for 90-yard touchdown. He added 71 yards on the ground with another score. So overall, this Galena team playing well, looking good, getting the win here. They're now sitting at 5-2 with a couple big matchups left.
Yeah, another team that finished with a losing record last year and are now going to the playoffs. So big matchup with them this week against Lee Win. We'll talk about that in a second. They finished with Lee Win and Stockton. So I think it's good that they're sitting at 5 wins now. They could get 1 win there between those 2 teams, but more importantly, they're sitting at 5. I think that should be enough to get them in.
All right, it's Dupek getting the win 60-36 over Fulton. Rivermen clinch a playoff spot by rolling up 633 total yards of offense, including 474 yards rushing. Mitch, give us the names here. Who is getting the job done for the Rivermen?
Yeah, 3 different rushers were over 100 yards. That was Dermot Dolan, Cooper Hoffman, and Johnny Fritzl, all over that century mark. There was over 1,000 yards of total offense in this game between the 2 teams. So, yeah, these scores were, especially in this game, were just particularly nuts. For the Steamers, Jacob Hazelgate, 146 yards receiving. He had 3 touchdowns. Braden Myers came in at quarterback, threw for those 3 scores. So, a lot of fight in this Fulton team. Came up short in this one, but this Dupek offense has so many weapons. We're normally used to talking about Cooper Hoffman throwing the ball. I think he did have 150 or so passing yards, but they've been seemingly rushing the ball more this year. So just another kind of stage of their game that they can hit you with, and they'll need it going into the 3A playoffs.
Yep. All right, a couple more games here. Stockton gets the big win, 54-14 over Morrison. Blackhawks once again show strength up front. They tally 354 yards rushing in this game. Mark Detweiler led the way, 173 yards and 4 touchdowns. After Morrison closed the Stockton lead to 10 early in the second quarter, Blackhawks roll off 30 unanswered to pull away in this one. So, Mitch, the Blackhawks with the impressive victory here, they look good. They're now sitting at 4 wins, 4-3.
Yeah, so now they've matched their win total from last year. I think they're going to surpass that this week going against Dakota. Talked a lot about that field up there at Stockton. Saw the pictures from this game under the lights. Got Morrison uniforms going up against Stockton's, and just brought back some great memories. But yeah, a great win for Stockton here. They really bullied Morrison in this one. For the Mustangs, Ryan Alvarado led the way, 150 yards, and he had both of Morrison's scores. But, for Stockton, I think we're looking at a playoff team here once they get their 5th win in week 8.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Stockton will be in the playoff mix. One more game to cover here. Forreston gets the win 20-16 over Hazel Green Southwestern. So that sets up our week 8 matchups. Eastland Pearl City at Morrison, Lena Winslow at Galena, Dupek at Forreston, Stockton at Dakota. In the game we talked about, Knoxville will travel to Fulton for a non-conference game. Mitch, we'll start with Lena Winslow. They go on the road to Galena. And, like we talked about, Galena's putting together a good season, already sitting at 5-2. I think I will say exactly what you said last week. I want to get excited about this. I want to think that Galena can pull off the upset. I don't know. It's just every week, it's so hard to find a way to beat Lena Winslow.
Yeah, it's just even if, kind of like EPC had some early success, they just rip it right away from you. So Galena's defense has only let up 6 points against Dakota, 7 against Fulton the week before that. So that defense is certainly going to have to play that way. But if you go back one more game, they gave up 61 to Dupek. So the defense is certainly going to have to be tightened up against Lena Winslow. And we'll see if they can do it. Again, I do think that they will. This game won't hurt their playoff prospectus. Maybe just more of a seeding thing, but I think this is the most intriguing game, at least in the conference this week. I think the other four are pretty cut and dry and easy to kind of see how they will go. Outside of Knoxville and Fulton, again, maybe not two teams that are going to make the playoffs this year, but should be a fun matchup.
Yep. Yeah, I think if EPC, Dupec, and Stockton all get the job done like we're anticipating, I think that Lena Winslow-Galena game's the intriguing one. Looking ahead next week, depending on how it shakes out, I think that Stockton and Galena is going to be an interesting Week 9 matchup. That could be really interesting for both of those schools. But we'll look ahead. We'll save that for next week. But that's your look at the Northwest Upstate Illini, the 11-man teams. Let's get into the I-8FA. Some 8-man final scores from Week 7. Ridgewood gets the win 58-28 over Bushnell Prairie City. Flanagan Cornell Woodland gets the win 41-26 over West Central. Amboy gets the win 68-0 over Peoria Heights. Polo 68-8 over Rockford Christian. Milledgeville 40-0 over South Beloit. Alden Hebron 65-50 over River Ridge. Hiawatha 62-20 over Ashton Franklin Center. West Carroll gets the win over Orangeville on Saturday, 44-14. So a nice bounce back win there for West Carroll. And, they're now in the playoff picture there in 8-man football. And with 2 weeks to go, we really are, the field is taking shape in 8-man football.
Yeah. Yeah. So according to Kyle Kampmeyer, with 2 weeks to go, there are only 2 spots left to fill this playoff field. So, and it looks like there may be just a mix of 3 teams that are sitting at 3 and 4 right now. You've got Alden Hebron, Metro East Lutheran, and Orangeville all vying for those final 2 spots.
Yeah, it should be really intriguing to follow these last couple weeks. One game I did want to mention from around the state, Pawnee got the win 42-12 over Martinsville. So that was Pawnee. That was undefeated matchup, battle of unbeatens. Pawnee now 7-0. Martinsville falls to 6-1. So 2 teams that are definitely in the playoff mix here for 8-man, and it's Pawnee coming away with the convincing win.
So we did see a prediction from call him the playoff guru.
Yeah, that's right.
Joe Meridian kind of just penciled out what he thinks might look the pairings might look like. He has Metro East Lutheran and Alden Hebron getting those last 2 spots.
Okay. We should reference Joe Meridian will be one of the cast of characters on the NUIC football playoff preview show. That Saturday when the playoff pairings are announced. We'll go live on the NUICfootball.com YouTube channel. You can catch us. I'll be there in person along with Kyle Kampmeyer. Joe Meridian will be there and several other special guests along the way. Yep. I really encourage everyone to go out and listen. Kyle does a great job of promoting, previewing 8-man all the way through Class 3A, really gets in depth. We, me and the other guys involved really do our homework to not just learn our area, but to learn teams around the state, teams certainly in the North bracket, but teams to watch for on both sides of the bracket, North and South. And with, Joe being on there as the 8-man, like you said, the 8-man guru knows his stuff. So just really well-informed bracket talk. So I encourage everyone on that Saturday when the after Week 9, when the brackets are announced, go out, find the link. Kyle will be tweeting it on NUIC Football. I'll retweet it as well.
Yeah, so, we'll have the link ready to roll, no doubt.
Yep. And Mitch, maybe again like we did last year, you and I can do a little instant reacts to the brackets. Find a way to jump on and talk that night or that next morning, or figure something out.
Well, you're doing that show. My night is usually trying to figure out. Prep our playoff show, learn about some out of area teams that we don't have any information on, and if it's trying to pull a logo or something, so I'm usually in prep mode while you guys are breaking it all down. So yeah, it's crazy to think that that's only 2 weeks away, but already kind of looking forward to it and planning it, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Yep. Well, without looking too far ahead, let's talk about week 8 in 8-man football. River Ridge goes on the road to Milledgeville, Orangeville at AFC, Polo at West Carroll, Amboy at West Central, Bushnell Prairie City at Galva, and Flanagan Cornell Woodland at Ridgewood. So several really intriguing matchups there. I want to see Amboy go up against West Central. I think, we continue to say that this West Central team, try to prove themselves as these games get tougher down the stretch for them. That's a game that stands out to me. Flanagan Cornell Woodland going up against Ridgewood is a game that stands out to me as well. And then, Polo and West Carroll. I think Polo's the favorite in that one. But what can West Carroll do? When they've gone up against the heavy hitters like Milledgeville, they struggled. They've had a great season other way around otherwise. So what can they do against Polo?
Yeah, I think they're, maybe could be some potential playoff rematches, looking at some of these matchups, including one, Joe Meridian has Amboy and West Central meeting up in week 1. So they would meet here in week 8 and then in round 1, I should say, not week 1, round 1 of the playoffs. But, Polo and West Carroll could meet in this week and then see each other in the playoffs too. So that's the fun of 8-man. We see these matchups. We have the chance to see these matchups more than once. Certainly in the regular season, we see that. And then come playoff time, there's always that shot too. So yeah, as this season winds down in 8-man, and like we mentioned, only 2 spots left, we'll be talking about, that'll be a fun playoff bracket to break down.
Yep. One more quick note, like I mentioned, Amboy goes up against West Central. West Central, to end their season, they got Flanagan Cornell Woodland, who they fell to this past week.
Yep.
Then Amboy this week, Ridgewood in week 9. So we kind of wondered if this West Central team had been tested. Well, they're going to be tested now. See if they can, maybe prove some people wrong and get some wins here. Because I think a lot of people, for good reason, are high on Amboy. They're high on Ridgewood. So see what they can do.
Yep. No question about that. Again, that's the fun of 8-man. There's a lot of good teams. They play each other a handful of times and never know what's going to happen. So should be fun last 2 weeks.
All right. Well, I'm excited to talk all about it. So we decided maybe the Kewanee swing for me Friday. That seems like 2 really good football games.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's where you go.
All right. All right.
Should be another. There's a lot of great games here in week 8 across all the conferences. Be a lot of good games in week 9 too. So, boy, we are in the thick of it now, and we're not even, we're not in the playoffs yet. We're going to see some really good games here in the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I'm very excited. Let's get into it. I know it's, the end of the year is always bittersweet, the end of the season, but man, it is really exciting time. So I'm ready to talk about it. Thank you to everyone who joined, who listened into this one. Be back on Saturday morning. We'll do the Instant Reacts podcast. Well, it'll be up very early Saturday morning. If you're still up and around, we'll post that link up way late.
Yeah. If you're still at Kelly's, celebrating a win over Kewanee, you'll be able to listen to it.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah. Or the Kewanee people will be listening, Mitch, if they come
or the Kewanee folks. Yeah.
So, and I'll be there. I'll be there to have the highlights of it. So I'll be there to talk about it as well.
Perfect.
So yeah, join us for the Instant Reacts podcast. And of course, we'll be back again a week from now to talk about what happened in week 8 and look ahead to week 9. So here we go, Mitch. Strap yourself in. It's going to get exciting.
That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to go out to Apple Podcasts or Podbean and subscribe so you can follow along, and downloads will come automatically every week. You can follow along on Twitter at ViewFromWestPod. You can also email me if you're interested in being a sponsor, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.